morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to this week's episode of the Non-Identity Podcast. Now, this week we're joined by an educational specialist and the landlord of the John Briscoe Arms. It's Jim. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Cheers, Lee. Thanks very much for having me.
And full disclosure, me and Jim used to be work colleagues as well, so I think this is going to be a great episode. Jim, before we get into everything that you're doing now, can you just let everyone know who you are and where you grew up?
Yeah, so I'm Jim Heyburn. I grew up in a posh part of Canning Town, East London. I was one of the fortunate people in Canning Town because of the area and stuff like that. And during the early 70s, it wasn't highfalutin like Chelsea. But I was lucky. I went to 2 decent schools, and as a result of that, it stopped me from going down various routes, should I say, that, you know, if you went to one of the other sort of comprehensives, you know, you might not have got the education or the support and the backing that you would have done if you'd been anywhere else. I've been one of the fortunate ones, to be quite honest. I was born and raised about 15-20 minute walk from Danny Dyer. So, because he's a custom house boy, and literally I could probably walk to his yard in about 20 minutes from where my mum is still living in Canning Town.
And like you said, you were fortunate enough to go to the better schools in that area, but obviously the East End of London's got a reputation. Was all that stuff going on around you while you was growing up?
Oh yeah, I mean, when we lived in a block of flats that's no longer there, and then my mum was lucky enough that she got moved from the block of flats into a house in what traditionally was called the reservation, which was the Silvertown side of the A13. And she was lucky to got a council house, 3-bedroom council house, and we was opposite, but it's no longer there like most pubs in the East End, the Ground Rent Tavern, and there was a cavalcade of, you know, people going in there that were what we would call faces, League. You know what I mean? It was, you know, they'd pop in, they'd be in and out of the bookies, they'll be shifting gear, they'll be doing this, they'll be doing that, a little bit of naughtiness as well. But yeah, so it was always around, and if you wasn't bright, then you know you'd get roped into that sort of thing. Not like it is now, like with the gangs and that gang culture and stuff like that. It was very much hidden, but in plain. If that makes sense, it was hidden, but it was in plain sight if you looked. If you know what I mean, you knew who was who.
Yeah, I've always sort of said that because I grew up in Plumstead and Woolwich, and when I was growing up, you heard of things going on, but it was never in your face because, in a way, that world kept themselves to themselves and dealt with each other in that world. And so if you weren't part of it, you never knew about it. But like you're saying, nowadays, everyone's just in front of each other, pulling knives and doing whatever.
See, back there, like, we had one pub called the Allsville Tavern. Everyone called it the White House, the Allsville Tavern. And they had cameras as you walked in, and there was camera on the bar, and there was cameras everywhere. And they used to, when you walk through the door, you said, "Smile, you're on camera." And you had video screens up behind the bar next to the big fish tank. And Ron used to run it in such a way where you were welcome to come in, but if you did any naughtiness, you was on camera and you were getting done. So if a face walked in, they knew that they were only coming in there for a drink and a chat. It was at that time, like late 70s, early 80s, and even during the 90s when I was going out and drinking and stuff and mixing, you knew they were faces, but they always behaved themselves, and they only ever spoke to you or dealt with you if you was infringing on their sort of evening and you was making a pillock of yourself, and they'd come up and warn you, and that'd be it. But they wouldn't come near you because you was irrelevant to them. You were not a threat, even though you was a lump. Right? I was 6'1", sort of 16, 17 stone. Played rugby, did a bit of door work, all that sort of stuff. But you was never a threat to them, so they never bothered you. So you felt safe. You was scared. Don't get me wrong. You was petrified. Like, you know, when Billy Williams, some of affectionately was called Billy the Bomb, used to come into a pub. I used to be terrified that I'd look at him in the wrong way, unbeknownst to me. And then you get clumped. And, you know, he's a fella that was called the Bomb by Muhammad Ali. Evidently, when Muhammad Ali came to fight, who was it? Henry Cooper. He was sparring, and Bomb was only about 17, 18. But he was sparred with Ali, evidently. Those are the sort of myths and the rumours and the legends. And Ali called him the Bomb because he hit so hard.
you said you worked on the door and stuff as well. What sort of did you see much bad
Oh,
stuff
Christ,
really?
yeah. So I got into it through rugby because I used to play rugby at East London Rugby Club, and a few of my mates worked on the doors, and they loved the rat. And they could really handle it. Whereas I'm a talker, I can look after myself, but I'm more of a talker than a puncher. And I got into a bit of a scuffle on the rugby pitch on a Saturday afternoon, deserved. but And then one of my mates turned around and said, who recently has just passed, his funeral's in a couple of weeks. He went to me, you got a black suit and a bow tie? I said, yeah. He said, do you want to earn 30 quid? I said, yeah, what have I got to do? He said, can you come down to the Shannon in Seven Kings? Yeah. He said, what have I got to do? He said, just pat people down. So up our state would start patting people down, black suit, white shirt, black Velcro bow tie. And you were patting people down. And I did it for about, I don't know, maybe about a year, 18 months. And then I stopped when there was a fella that got shot down the island. He shuts a bloke out, bloke come back and shot him, from what we heard. And I think it was my mum. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was my mum said it's not worth it. 30 quid's not worth it. You don't know who you're chucking out, Luke. You know,
Exactly.
you're chucking out and what they're going to do when they come back. It could be weeks, it could be months. They'll come back. You'll be outside. You're not looking, and then it'll be like today's. It's just they'll just plumb you with a bit of steel, and that's it. And 30 quid for risking your life, it ain't worth it. But we had good fun down there. I mean, I always tried to work upstairs. It was the downstairs bar, which was all the young stuff. When I say young stuff, it was the 90s, so it was like music. But it was too rowdy for me. But the upstairs bar was over 25, so you got a different clientele. You could talk to people and go, look, listen, I know you've had a good drink, I know you feel like you're Superman, but if you carry on, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And if you don't leave, those big blokes that are looking and itching just to have a bit of fun with you are going to pick you up like a rag doll, throw you down the stairs and turf you out, and you're going to regret it in the morning. I don't want to see that happen. You don't want to feel that happen. Now let's just turn it in. But if I have to come back and speak to you, they're going to come with me, all right? So, and that's the way you talk to people. It's like that we've spoken before about relationships. It's letting people understand there are options here and there are solutions. And if you listen to me, not that I'm a full expert, but if you listen to me, we might get through this in one piece. And I've used those skills through all of my jobs. Especially as you know, in education, that's the most biggest and important skill is common sense and relationship.
Yeah, no, exactly. Totally agree with that. Before we get into the education side of things, just going back to when you was on the door, being part of like the doorman crew and stuff, do you think it gave you a bit of an ego as you was a young man?
No, because
did you see that from others?
Oh, you're good, yeah. I mean, some of these blokes, I mean, they'd only hit you once, and you wouldn't wake up till the following Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? And they were proficient. They'd go to the gym, they'd train and stuff like that. I couldn't even touch my toes because my hamstrings were so tight. I couldn't even touch my toes. So I couldn't even lift my leg up enough to kick someone. But we had a bloke called Richard that was our lead doorman, and he was like a filleted earwig compared to me. But it was taekwondo, and he could blind kick someone from about, he could kick a 6'6" fella in the face, and he was only 5'8". It was just phenomenal. Some of these, I see a bloke hit a fella once, and it wasn't pretty, and the fella didn't really deserve it, but he punched him once, and as he pulled his hand back, he shook his hand, and then he literally looked down and he pulled this bloke's tooth out of his knuckle, threw it on the floor, and then went bang and hits him again because he left his tooth in his nose. And I'm like this, going like that. What am I watching? What is going on? And and because I'm not a puncher like these boys were, I was a talker. I could pick someone up and move them. I could lift people. I can hold them. I can move them. But if I hit someone, they just look at me. I have to hit them about 5 times, combinations, So I was more of a Tyson Fury, like 5-6 combination, as opposed to a Joshua, which was a one hit, just straight bang down the arrow. So my ego wasn't there because I wasn't even close to the food chain. I was, I was well down. So I was very, very equal with the punters. And you never know, like through boxing and stuff. You never know who can hit, who can't hit, who can hold a punch, who can take a punch, who can deliver a punch, who can stand there all day long and get smacked like Homer Simpson in that episode where he's quite better because his thumb's about that thick. You could just sit there and slap a bloke and he'll just smile at you, and you think to yourself when you start folding up, you think, oh, it's just going to go wrong. I hope someone's behind me that can hit someone, But all I did was just talk to people and diffuse, So I've never had an ego, and I've always been self-conscious all my life about everything that I do, whether I'm good enough or not. And like a load of us, need validation. But I didn't think I ever needed validation in that job because I just wanted to get out in one piece and earn a couple of quid, Whereas some people, they're not unhappy at home or they're unhappy with their job and they just want to take it out on someone and they're just itching. But I worked with a lot of good fellas. I'm still close friends with. We all did it from the rugby club, and it was just money. It wasn't about. It was at least half a dozen of us that it wasn't ego. It was just we need to earn a few quid here because we're all skint. We've got day jobs, but it's not paying for. And I'd have to pay because I weren't driving. I didn't drive until I was 40. So this is when I was 21, 22. So I literally just that money I earned, gave my mum half of it, and then the other half I, paid for a taxi and a kebab, and that was it. So I was literally just going home and giving my mum. I got a taxi, 3 Coca-Cola all night, a taxi and a kebab, and they gave me mum 15 quid almost. It was smart
Sounds
as well.
like a perfect night, really.
Oh yeah. Apart from the lack of drink, but.
So, as we said in the intro as well, you're an education specialist. Why did you decide to get into teaching and education?
That was a strange one because I was originally, when I left school, I walked out of A-level. I just couldn't stand learning anymore. So I walked out in December when I was 16 and just got a red. But anyone listening that's old enough knows what a red bus rover is.
I'm not even old enough to know what that is.
No, it was like an all-day bus pass for 70 pence or something like that. So I went down to the local shop, got a red bus rover for 70 pence. I was still in my sort of sixth form uniform, and I jumped on the number 15 bus in Canning Town, and then I went straight up to Oxford Street, and then started going into every single clothes shop. Got any jobs? Got any jobs? Got any jobs? Got any jobs? And then I went into Acumen, the Stoke House, which is no longer there, and I asked for a job, and they give me a application form, and they said fill it out. So I filled it out, and they said, "Right, okay, come back." Wednesday, went back and I started selling suits within about 2 weeks before Christmas. And I was there till about the April. I bumped into an old friend from school, Peter Cuffey, who talked about the Royal Bank of Scotland. In those days, you had to physically write to them. So there was no email. So I physically wrote a letter to the HR, looked it up in the Yellow Pages. Genuinely, this is all these millennials that are struggling or wherever they are. I had to look through the Yellow Pages, find who HR was, or the nearest, and then literally I wrote the letter and put it in an envelope, stuck a stamp on it, and then sent it to Royal Bank of Scotland. Within a month, they'd sent me a letter back, and I started working in finance. I did that for the best part of 6-7 years, and then after a while, a parish priest said to me, he said, I don't think you should be doing this anymore because I was doing some charity work at the summer camp. He said, I've seen the way you work with kids. I've seen the way you work with people. I want you to go and do a degree with a couple of others that we knew in youth and community work. And then it was called informal education. So I went, all right. And so I went for the interview. And the interview was 2 days after I applied for a job at Coates & Co, like the Royal Bank, on the Strand. And that interview for Coates & Co was easier than the interview to get into college, genuinely. I had this Italian, I knew it was Italian because it was quiet. And the only stumbling block between Coots and Cohen going to college was just they wanted references from Australia, because I've been in Australia for 94, during 1994, for just for about 10 months. And because I did various jobs out there, they wanted references. I said, I couldn't even tell you who the people, I couldn't even remember the names of the people that run it, you know. I did like 4 weeks helping restore antique furniture in an area in Sydney called Piccadilly. I'd done 2 or 3 days' work doing removals. I said, I can't get references for these people. I don't know where they are. They said, well, it's going to be a stumbling block. And then I went for the interview at college, and they went, well, we'll have you. So that was it. That was what got me out. If Coots had taken me and said yes, I might have been somewhere completely different. Could have been drunk and dead by now as well, but because of the lifestyle working in the city. But yeah, so then that's where I started. I started doing the degree, and as part of that degree, I had to do a placement. So then I worked with a very good friend of mine who was a detached youth worker, Don, and I did a year doing detached youth work in North Silvertown, which is the right side of the river, not your side.
I'd say nothing.
No, because you'll say the contrary to that anyway. And then the second year, I worked with a fabulous bloke called Bob Goldsmith. And this was the same company called Community Links in Canning Town. And he ran an alternative provision for kids that have been excluded. So I did a year with him as just like a class TA and a mentor and stuff like that. And I never moved out of it after that. I did my second year, got me a little diploma, and they said, right, do you want to do your final year? And I said, yeah, I'm going to think about it, because I got to a certain level. I got to 2 for the first 2 years. So that means I could have done me last year. But I was dating a girl that got married, eventually got married to about a year and a half, 2 years later. And they offered me a Key Stage 4 alternate provision job, managing it. And I thought, I'm going to get married. I love this girl. So that's, you know, at the time, that was the time I thought, well, I need the money. So then I did that. And I didn't go back and finish the degree until 20 years later.
Wow.
20 years later, my current wife, I like to call her that, keeps on her toes, but she will kill me when she hears this. But she said, right, you need to learn to drive. You need to get your degree. You need to start valuing yourself a bit more and putting yourself out there. So I did. And it was the best thing, one of the best things. She's changed my life completely. She's a superstar. Yeah, but and then I've never been out of education. And I've done so many bits. I've run pupil referral units. As you know, I've taught in SEMH schools, SDN schools, Cookenwood Young Offenders Prison, which was horrendous. I've run statutory projects, mandatory projects, voluntary projects. I've taught in mainstream, worked in mainstream, primary, secondary, you name it. I've done it. And now I'm to the stage there where I'm writing EHCPs because I was getting so frustrated in mainstream schools that I needed to get out, because I was just getting to the point where I'm not able to utilise what I've done over the years with the qualifications and experience I've got. And when you get to my age, which is 52 this year, you start thinking about, are kids still going to listen to me? Am I still going to be valid? You know, and it's always about that validation, whether or not I'm going to be able to still have those conversations that impart knowledge and doesn't come across, oh, I've got to listen to this old fart again. I'm banging on about this, and you know, and just you and I both know that we both team teach, and we've done restraint handling for years, and you get to a stage where your body just can't deal with it.
100%. Before I get into all that bit, just to go back to when you first started, did you have many? How did your friends and family take that you wanted to work with young people? Because I know
they knew straight away that it was the only job for me.
But when I was 18, because I sort of got into it from the age of 40, but when I was 18 going down the pub and that, my mates used to take the mick mucking about because I was 18 years old wanting to work with young people. Did you ever get anything, because being male, did you get anything like that?
No, see, I was involved in sort of a charity, Catholic kids charity, that run a kids camp during the summer called St John Bosco, which is what the name of my pub is, St John Bosco. arms. And we went as kids because we didn't really have holidays and stuff, right? And it was respite, and we went away. Not that our life was crap at all; it was lovely, but it was just a guaranteed holiday a year. We got sponsored by a charity to go. Me and my brothers. And then when you're old enough, you can actually go back and do the volunteering, and then help run the camp and do all the jobs. So I always went back. So my friends, apart from the blokes at the rugby club, and whoever I worked with at the time, were mainly the helpers that went and did John Bosco anyway, got the centre. So that was my circle of friends. I didn't have, and when they said, "Oh, what are you doing for summer?" I said, "Well, I booked a week off. I'm going to go and do this and do that, a bit of charity work." And there was, and then in those days, there wasn't anything. Nobody would second guess it. So, oh, you work with kids, all like that, you know. It's not like now. Why would a grown man want to go and work with kids at a camp? Unless, and then you have that horrible, or you some sort of like this, or you like kids do that, and then you start thinking about safeguarding, child protection, and stuff like that. You're thinking, no, it's nothing to do with that. That's my skill set. I always tell people that if you look at something like Gardner's multiple intelligences, um, you might be musical, you might be mathematical, you might have good with languages. My skill base is inter and intrapersonal. So it's understanding myself affecting people, and then understanding how I can receive other people and work with them and build relationships and that community trust and stuff like that. So I always knew that I had that skill base. And it took like Father John to turn around and say, right, you're mucking about, and there's no value in you doing this, working in finance. You just, well, every money you're getting, you're just drinking. So, and you're not adding any value to anyone's life. I need you to do this. So when someone who's been your mentor for years and has seen you grow up for years, when they turn around and say something, you know, that you don't even see in yourself at the time, you just be and exist. When someone says something like that, you think, well, maybe he's right. And then you go and then you do it, and then you'll have crap days. God, how many crap days have we had over years? You know what I mean? It's crap years and crap weeks and crap months, where you think you're never making a difference. And then one day, you know, you stop a kid from doing something silly, and then 10 years down the line, you'll get LinkedIn, or you'll get a Facebook request, or you'll get an email or something, and they turn around and go, just want to touch base. I'm doing this now. And I don't think I'd be there if it wasn't for you. And our, our way of working and the kids that we work with, our results are not a traditional result. It's not like mainstream schools where, you know, oh, they've got 5 GCSEs, 8 Cs. Well done, aren't we great? No, you're not. You've shown them how to remember something and how to regurgitate it and put it down on paper. Where is the rounded individual? Where is that person going to be? How is that person going to interact in society? How's that person going to actually impart what they've got from us and make their life and the people around their lives that much better? And when you get that phone call or that email or that little message that says, you know, I've had this. All right, fat boy, what you doing on this date? I go, not much. Why? Can you meet me at the O2? I want you to be at my graduation. And this is a Bengali lad that I worked with in Forest Gate that, you know, saw the value in what I did with him for 4 or 5 years as his learning mentor. And he messaged me recently, sent me a picture of his newborn baby. That's, you know, he bought an extra ticket out of his own pocket to have me sit next to his mum, his dad, and his sister while he went up and graduated at the O2. And he did a banking and finance degree. And he wanted me to be there because I'd impacted upon his life. And there's no reason why a young Bengali kid should actually pay any attention to a fat old man, but they do. And then, you know, one in 20 kids you might get that from 1 in 20 kids, but it's just that one that gives you that hope lead that keeps you doing it.
Oh, 100%. I remember, like, before I worked in a school, for the special needs students, and there was this boy that you couldn't go in the room with him because he'd just scratch you. So you had to sit outside the room to talk to him and stuff like to attack you. But every Friday, we used to take him to the park, and for 15 minutes he sat on the swing, and he was a kid again. Like, smile on his face, no worries in the world, looked happy and stuff like. He was non-verbal, that so he couldn't communicate how he was. You could just see it in the face, and that 15 minutes a week made everything, all the hitting and the spitting out and the biting, all worthwhile, because that's the moment you looked for.
Yeah. And the thing is like, you know, there is two ways you look at non-verbal. Non-verbal, obviously, because it's not there's none of that vocal communication, but non-verbal also is it makes you a better worker because you have to tap in and look for those social cues, the body language, the responses. You know, it's like that. What was that program? Lie to Me. You know, with that English fella that he reads people's faces and he can tell if they're lying and stuff. And it's that honing of a skill where you have to be on your game to find one little ounce of response. It might be that they'll just look over to you like that when you've done something that's intrigued them. You think, right, what was it that I just done? Can I do that again? If I do that again, can I get him to do this? And by the end of the day, you're knackered because you've really burnt brain calories, not physical calories, but brain calories, where you're overworking on trying to figure it out. But you'll get to a place where, you know, like you said, on that Friday, you have that 15 minutes of this is what we're working towards. And if I can just extend upon that, move it forward, then that would be great.
Going into you and how you, because like we've seen some horrible things and dealt people's situations that we wouldn't dream of. Like, we've seen the horrible side of humanity, basically. So how do you keep your mental health in check, and how do you self-care for your mental health?
My mental health's up and down. I'll be honest with you. When I first started working, I was working with a lot of self-harmers. And I had one particular girl that was, hurting herself a lot, and horrendous reasons behind it. I won't go into it here. But my ex-wife used to say to me, you either learn to deal with it or find another profession. So what I did was I just blocked it out, like, which was the worst thing I could do. Blocked it out, put it at the back of my head, but it screws you up. You know, it screws you up, and then you still, like most blokes do. I know blokes are changing over the years now. We're learning to talk better, but I suppressed so much over the years that you end up having little mini episodes, little bouts of depression, and you drink and you do your own version of self-harm. Go out, you drink, you might end up having illicit relationships with other people behind your partner's back, and then that's your self-destruct. Recently, I wasn't, like, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've struggled, been scared to sleep, haven't been able to sleep, went to the doctors eventually, which I never do. I said, right, this is becoming an issue now because I'm panicking about sleep. So they give me some Phenergan, which is just antihistamine, but it's drowsy. But I used to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and drive around Tilbury because I couldn't sleep, and I needed to fully immerse myself in something that was kinesthetic. That was, if I'm driving, and for anyone out there listening, if you're really struggling with your mental health, try some Engelbert Humperdinck driving around Tilbury at 1 o'clock in the morning. It works. There's nothing like screaming "Quando, Quando, Quando" at 1 o'clock in the morning with a cigarette on the go, just driving through the back roads of Tilbury, through the dock areas, singing, and it takes your mind off everything. So then you come back, and I used to carry on driving until I started yawning. So I could be out for an hour, just doing loops and laps. But I'm lucky with my wife because she says you have to get it out. Just tell me, even if it's crap news for me, just tell me because you can't let it sit inside you. And that's why I've become a bit more open to change in terms of if I'm not happy in something, I just go, right, can it be changed? No. Is it because I'm the one who's stopping it from changing? No. Is it because this school or this or that is the reason why it won't change? Yes. Right, what do? Right, then you change it yourself. You go, right, I can't do this no more. My mental health and work-life balance, etc., is not working. I'm not feeling good. I'm off. And when I get to that stage, I can start. My wife knows before I even know what the problem is. She notices a little furrow that develops before it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'll be sitting there and she'll go to me, "What's up?" Oh, nothing. She goes, "Take a look at your forehead," or something like that. Have a look at yourself. And I go, "I don't know yet. I haven't processed it. I don't know what's wrong. I can feel the tightness. I can feel, you feel uptight." Um, but she'll spot it way before I will, because I'm still used to suppressing stuff. But she'll get it out of me, and then I'll come up to it, and I've got 300-watt speakers sitting below this desk. I've got a real decent 8-track mixer, and I have got all of my music from over the years just on the laptop, and I can just sit here and do guitar night, Motown, disco, soul, 80s, 90s pop, rock, whatever I think's needed. I can just sit there, nurse a couple of fizzy lemonades of the brown variety, a couple of roll-ups, normal roll-ups, nothing else. Don't touch anything else like that. And then, or I'll go online and do a night with on one of the platforms and play tunes, and then people who interact with me, and it's a way of music like that is my therapy as well. She'll know that if I'm coming up here, it's not it'll be I either need to because I need to clear my head, or I just don't want to watch Married at First Sight Australia, and I'm not sitting in the front room.
Was there any times that, because like we both got children, and I struggled with this a bit sometimes, that it affected my relationship with my children because I'm putting so much effort into helping other people's children.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So my biggest example is that my last week at the job before where I was at here, I went to Chesington 4 times in the week and Thorpe Park once. I haven't been able, and that was all for free. Well, I can't even afford to take my children to Chesington.
Yeah. Obviously, it's different because I've got 3 girls, 2 with my first wife, and then obviously I've got little one with my current wife. She's only 5, so the job that I'm doing now allows me, because it's fully remote, apart from a couple of days, I get to sort of drop her off at school and pick her up every now and again, and do things. I never had that because when me and the ex-wife split up, I was still what 9 and 3, or even younger than that. I think 8 and 2. And then I become every other weekend dad. So I when I did have them, I took them out or tried to do what I could, depending on how much money I had. It was just about seeing them. So I didn't really have that problem as such. But I do know that, yeah, I can understand the pressures of what you've gone through, because obviously with the jobs that we have done over the past, you're on day trips, summers and stuff like that. But our line of work is never paid enough. I wouldn't say it was undervalued, but certainly undervalued in terms of like financial remuneration, not undervalued in terms of appreciation. But I mean, we're the poor man's everything else. So we're living hand to mouth on a regular basis because the money's horrendous. Which is why there's such a shortage in mentors, TAs, learning support assistants, because nobody's prepared to go and do the work for that sort of money. When you can go to Lidl and do, you know, 5-10 hour shifts, and then half again of what you've already earning while you're getting spat out, told to F and Jeff off and all sorts.
I think it also proves as well when the TAs and the teachers strike. So if a teachers strike, the schools manage to stay open. As soon as the TAs go on strike, they have to shut the schools. So it sort of shows really what's at the heart of schools. And I'm not saying teach, because obviously you've taught as well. I'm not saying teachers' roles are not important, but I think financially there needs to be more given to the support staff, because it's really weird as well. It's like a teacher will get rid of a naughty kid and pass them on to a support member of staff. But the teachers get paid more money to deal with a classroom. So it just doesn't make sense in my mind how that works.
The behaviour management, and you know, because your current role, the behaviour management is that way. I am not prepared to sacrifice 29 kids learning for the sake of one and wasting 5-10 minutes doing classroom management. I'll just call on call. They'll pick this kid up, move them into the head of years class. If they muck up there, I'll move them into the seclusion or inclusion room, and then they're out of sight, out of mind, and I can carry on teaching. Well, you've got to identify that. Why is this kid misbehaving? What is the precursor to their frustration? Why are they doing this? Who's taking note of it? It's us, me and you, Luke. You know, it's the TAs, it's the LSAs. You build a relationship, you find out what the problem is. It could be something that they just haven't eaten a day and then they're tired and they're hungry or they haven't slept, you know, or dad's kicked off again, or mum's, whatever reason it is, social, emotional, or social economic reason. And nobody's got the time of day to deal with it, or the resources to deal with it, where it just needs someone to put their arm around them. Not that you can do that nowadays, and say, right, what's the problem? You go, oh, I'm just hungry, I'm tired, this is happening, right, we'll have a chat for 15 minutes, I'll get you a breakfast bar from there, get a glass of water, we'll go for a walk around the playground, and we'll come back, and then we'll get it sorted. And you do a quick mediation, and then get them back in the lesson. And then you've saved another exclusion or another detention or this and that by utilising what we like to call common sense.
Exactly. And because you've been in education for so long, why do you think behaviour in schools is such a high sort of nowadays? Then it feels like it's different to when we was at school as young people, and also when I first started working within schools in my 20s and stuff. It seems like the kids have lost a lot of respect for authority within schools. Why do you think that is?
I personally think that we have a pandemic, and it is a pandemic. We have a pandemic of social, emotional, mental health issues. We have a huge increase in diagnoses, ADHD, ASD. There's oppositional defiant disorder. There's pathological defiant.
Do you think these are correct diagnoses, though, or do you think it's easy for them?
I've worked in some boroughs, especially Medway, where there are some kids that are diagnosed with ADHD, but they haven't fully gone through the National Institute for Care, Health and Excellence, like the NICE guidelines, where they'll just look at a kid just tapping his feet and go, oh, yeah, he's ADHD, we'll give him 30 milligrams of Ritalin or something. And I hate it. I was part of a 2-day seminar years ago with Dr. Dan Hughes and Peter Breggin, two American psychiatrists and consultants and stuff, which debunked ADHD from their perspective. And I've always got a problem with, you know, they diagnose a kid without doing the QB1 test, which is that on the screen. They have to have at least an EP. They have to do at least 2 like proper sessions with the pediatrician and stuff like that. Do strength and difficulties questionnaires, kind of questionnaires. Do a whole load of background, and then finally, after 18 months, you're diagnosed. Whereas some of these kids are only getting within 3 hours, they're diagnosed. My biggest issue is that we should be more like France, but they only medicate 5% of all ADHD kids. I think it's something like that. But they'll weigh a kid, they'll work out their age, and they'll say, right, you need 30 milligrams because you're 75 kilograms and 13 years old. Now, I sat down with a consultant and I said, I'm trained by the Cognitive Centre of Canada to run cognitive behaviour traits and ADHD in young people. I've got a proper good certificate for all this sort of stuff, and I've worked with ADHD for a long time. I said to the consultant, right, okay, I'm going to show you a picture of a car. I'm going to tell you how old it is. I'm going to tell you how much it weighs. And you're going to tell me how much oil can fit inside that engine. And they went, what? And I went, that car is a Mark II Granada, weighs 1.5 tons, and it's that many years old. How many litres of petrol can I fit in that tank? And they go, I don't know. Well, why don't you know? You've got the age and the weight. And then they clocked on what I was doing. Yeah, but it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as that. And I went, no, it bloody is. How do you know if there is a chemical imbalance, which they say about ADHD? There's a chemical imbalance that they haven't got this or they haven't got that. How do you know just by their weight and their age how much this methamphetamine, amphetamine, whatever it is, will counteract that level? And they can't answer it, they can't answer it. And until such time when they can turn around and say, well, what we've done is we've done spinal tap, we've done blood tests, we can turn around and say that there's a reduction in dopamine or this or that, and then we need this much medication to top it up. Then that's when I'll start thinking, because the side effects from these medications, most of the kids, it's an appetite suppressant, so they have to go on the protein shakes to bump their weight up. As soon as their weight goes up, what do? Well, they're a little bit heavier. We've got to up them back dose. One kid, the medication never really worked for him. Never really changed him. Never really. And it has been clinically proven that after about 3 or 4 months with the medication, and it might have changed, I don't know, but from my perspective, your brain starts counteracting the medication. So you've got a very small window of opportunity when that medication is working, is to impart behaviour strategies and stuff like that to change those what we call fixate patterns of behaviour that the kids have gotten into. So where they use negative solutions to get out of issues. So they don't want to look like they can't understand what they're doing. They don't want the peer pressure of people telling them and say, you're can't do this. So they'll just say, right, if I muck about, I'll get kicked out of class and I don't have to do maths. And then they do that all the time, and then they get into that fixated pattern behaviour, and then it just goes through their whole entire life, and they struggle with it. With this kid, no matter what medication was on, it never seemed to work. But he always had glue ear, or he had grommets. So because I don't really read, but I do like work related stuff. So I just typed in ear problems related to ADHD. And I read a paper, very, very short paper, that a malformation in the inner ear creates pressure, which in turn creates pseudo ADHD behavior traits. And if you've always had this issue, you know that's the norm. So you don't know that unless your ear gets really painful, that's the normal feelings, because it's always been that feeling. So you don't know the difference. And I took it to the mum. And I said, listen, just for my own curiosity, can you just follow this up? And she went, yeah, but he's definitely got ADHD. Said, yeah, he probably has definitely ADHD. But when the medication's not working and the behaviour strategies, this could be an issue, because then this medication might not be the panacea that it is. And I asked her about 3 or 4 months afterwards, did you follow up? She said, no, I don't want it to affect my disability living allowance. And that's when I knew I had to leave that school. I couldn't contain myself. Like, just there was something in me that said, well, I need to walk away now. I can't, because then can I raise it as a safeguarding issue? Can I do this? Can I do that? No medical background information. What am I fighting? You know, I'm going to fight against a paper that I read with a parent that's managed to get an ADHD diagnosis from an area that dish out ADHD diagnosis like there's like confetti. I was on a losing battle, so it was easy for me to just say, you know what, can't do it. I'm not going to be effective. I'm going to end up losing my job because I'm going to say something that I shouldn't understand. So then I just moved on.
Half the battle sometimes is parents as well, which you would understand that.
Because it's somebody else's job. Whereas no, it's not everyone else's job. It's your job to set the boundaries. Well, I can't do nothing. He won't listen to me. You know, He comes in, he goes straight on his Xbox. He's on there till 4 o'clock at night, or she's on there till 4 o'clock at night on her phone. And in my head, I'm as a parent, I'm thinking, well, I'll just cut the plug off their Xbox. Yeah, I'll turn the Wi-Fi off 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock and just say, right, that's it done. And then that's it. I'm the adult. You will listen, and you will just have to put up with it. But then the kids will turn around and go, well, I'll call. When I was growing up, I will call Childline because you're affecting my human rights. I'll speak to the police. I'll speak to this person, say that you're doing this, you're doing that. Parents just want an easy life. They're just, oh well, what can I do? And it's not all of them. I mean, it's a very, very small percentage. Those are the ones that become complex cases, take up all of your time.
I think that's our fault as educators because we're forced to let young people know their rights, and which is needed. But then, like any human behaviour, young people will play the system.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, we're duty bound to let them know what they're entitled to and what they're not entitled to and what they can and can't get away with. We are getting into a situation now where parents will come in and, I mean, years ago it was just, oh, why can't my kid have this haircut? What's haircuts got to do with how he learns? Well, this is the rules of the school, well, I don't think these rules should be in place. I said, well, if you go to a job that has a uniform or a job that has a particular way of looking, well, then my kid won't go to that sort of job then. They'll do what they want to do. So you're fighting a losing battle. They will justify the ends of the earth to get away with actually doing anything.
See it on a daily basis.
Oh, God, yeah.
Talking about schools as well, obviously in the UK, there's sort of seems over the world there's a teaching sort of pandemic and crisis. Why do you think that is?
Because it's not well. No. What it is that on paper teaching, and I was almost tempted to write to the ombudsman for advertising complaints about these teacher adverts. Now you know what I'm talking about. You'll have this young person that said, I was in the army, but now I wanted to impart my knowledge, and they'll show you this lovely picturesque learning environment where the kids are engaging and everyone's smiling at the teacher and paying attention to the teacher, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and I'm thinking, where is this school? Where is this school where the whole class are going, Sir, can I learn some more? Please, can you impart some more knowledge? You're wonderful, you are. Can I be your friend forever and for life? I love learning. Where? Where is this school? You go to a deprived area in Yorkshire, South London, Devon, anywhere in the country that's deprived with the socio-economic problems, where there's, there is, where there's kids that have got no chance of getting a job or earning enough money to buy a house or pay their bills, whatever like that, because of what it is. And you go into a class and find one of these picturesque visions that these adverts are portraying about teaching. And if you can find a dozen, I'm happy to sell my house and give proceeds to charity. Because what they don't realise is that as educators, we go into a school and I think it's something like 1,230 hours. We have to face-to-face teaching work, okay, a year. If we only did those hours, nothing would get done. Everyone turns around and says, "Oh, teaching's easy, 9 till 3:30, and then it's done." No, and that's just ignorant people not understanding. Same people that would say, "Well, what do firefighters do? They'll be asleep for most of the time, or they're just sitting there." I said, "Yeah, but there'll be one occasion where they might not have had anything for a couple of nights. Then all of a sudden, they've got Grenfell, and then they've got to deal with that, and then you've got PTSD, and then the horrendous stuff that's going through that they've had to put up with, and you know, and then they're getting blamed for it. They weren't. They were unaware of that situation, that it was that bad, because nobody had eyes on the ground and sending information. It's only when you saw the video, those firefighters driving from their cab to Grenfell, when you saw the whole thing ablaze, and they were like, that shouldn't be like that. We weren't told it was that bad. And they got pilloried for it. You know, and you think to yourself, it's not their fault. You know, why are you trying to make them as a scapegoat? And they're doing that with teachers. They keep on saying, oh, teachers should be social workers, teachers should be counsellors, teachers should be this, teachers should be that. And no, there isn't enough time in a day. You ask any mainstream teacher how many breaks you get during the day. Have you got a lunch break? Have you got time for a week? Some teachers will teach 5 out of 6 lessons or 6 lessons out of it. And now they'll only have 3 PPA, like preparation, planning, and assessment. And those 3 lessons, like they could be 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and they've got to mark 200 books. It's not enough. Yeah. So then they get in at 7:30 in the morning. They have a meeting. They have a year meeting or a team meeting or a faculty meeting, or there'll be a staff briefing, and that'll be for 45 minutes before school starts. Then you're on duty, and then you get the kids into tutor. Then you do tutor. Then you got to run across the field to get to your first lesson, then back across the field for the next lesson. You're breaking your neck for a wee or something else, or you just need a cup of tea, a glass of water. You might not get it till 12 o'clock. And then you're on lunch duty. So then you're on lunch duty, and you might get 10 minutes to get some food down you and a cup of tea. If you're like me that won't, you've got to run out the school quick for 2 lugs of a roll up that you've already rolled up before you can even get it. And me and you both know, because we've had to do it, we've pegged it out the front door because we've got 5 minutes and we're trying to get a cigarette down us before the next stuff starts. So, and then after school, you've got meetings, and then you've got to do your marking, your planning, and then you're probably there till 5 o'clock, and then you'll go home and you'll probably do 2 hours or 3 hours of marking because you've got this, that, and the other. And you're getting 24, 25, 26 as a newly qualified teacher. And then they'll offer you £1,200 a month, £1,200 a year to take on some teaching and learning and resource, TLR, responsibility, head of algebra or something like that. But that increases your time in school by another 30 minutes a day. £1,200 a year. When you break that down, why would anyone do it for that sort of money? And that's not considering the amount of negativity from kids that don't want to learn. Why have I got to learn Pythagoras? Why have I got to learn about lava? Why have I got to learn about this? What use has this got to do? And when they used to come to me, like with inclusion, I used to say, it's not about what you're learning. It's about your capacity to learn. Because if you turn around, when it was just simple A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, I say it's an alphabet game. It's how many letters you can get that's close to A that gives you the opportunity to go to a next level of learning. And then that next level of learning gets you either to a next level of learning or a job. And those A's and B's will mean that you've got more chance of earning more money. You could get straight A's in knitting, sewing, folding and origami, and maths and English, and you could get a job that pays you £45,000 because you got five A's. It could be in anything. I just want to know that you can learn and regurgitate information at the drop of a hat under pressure. And teachers now, people nowadays, like years ago, it was, well, become a teacher, you get half decent pay, you finish at 3:30, you might work till 5, but then you got half terms and summer holidays. Teachers mark through half terms. Teachers probably will do, I know most teachers will be in the last week or week and a half of after summer term to get their classroom ready for September. They'll be in getting books ready, resources ready. And then how many times have me and you have seen people buy their own resources because there's no money in the school? Buying pens, pencils, glitter pens, you know, from our primary kids, even up to our year 11s, buy calculators. So I don't break these because I bought myself. Or buying resources. Nobody wants to do the job. Nobody, nobody wants to be abused for £29,000 a year. You could go and work for the railways for that.
So I'll be open and honest. I'm classed as support staff, so I get 19,000 a year, but I'm running the behaviour room basically.
Oh yeah.
19 grand. It's not.
No, and not being funny. It's only because, and I have this. It's one of my favourite words when it comes to this line of work. It is our vocation. When you look at the etymology of the word vocation, it means calling from God or whatever. I'm not overly religious, but vocation means it's a proper calling, and it was a vocation was priesthood or the nunnery or police, fire brigades, or whatever. You can't. When they started introducing vocational courses, you'd have teachers that we'd work with say, right, we're going to put little Johnny on plastering on the vocational. And I go, has he asked to be on the vocational course? Does he want to be a plasterer? Well, no, but that's what we're telling him. Well, it's not a vocation, then, is it? If you're telling someone they've got to do plastering and bricklaying or whatever, then it's not a vocation. Whereas me and you are intrinsically designed to work this sort of work, and we love doing this job for those little wins that we talked about earlier. Those little wins, those little moments where something goes right, or a kid comes back and says that, like, thanks very much, you've changed my idea or perspective on things, and go from there. And it's those little wins. I don't care if they don't get straight A's. I want them to be a decent human being. And that's what me and you have got in spades above anyone else. Because our ways of working, our ways of communicating, our ways of building relationships is intrinsic to our line of work. Whereas a teacher, they don't have that time leap of week and that. We have that special time that we don't have to get them to do 6 questions by 10:15 and then mark their books and while we're walking around and saying tick, 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 tick. Do you understand it? Because I'm doing a test next week. All I'm asking you to do is go, right, do you understand why that person's annoyed with you? Do you understand why what you reacted in such a way? Did that. And you know why you reacted that way, because this is your precursor to your misbehaviour. This is what's going on inside your head. And that emotion is leading that decision. It's giving you that false negative. And then they go, well, obviously we wouldn't tell them like that, but you know what I mean? Just for me and you, that's what I'm saying. But it's that conversation there that starts planting the seed that maybe not that day, that week, that month, that year, but later on down, sometimes that seed will grow and then turn around and go, you know what? He was right. He is talking sense. He's not an old hairy kid. He knows what he's talking about. I wish I'd paid attention then, but now I'm older, a little bit wiser. I'm going to start using that. And you get that phone call, that email, that little message that says, you know what, thanks very much. You know, here's a picture of me kid. I've just had a baby and I'm delighted. I'm on the straight and narrow.
Going back to you now, because we're talking about relationships, how important, because you always seem like someone when we work together to lift everyone's spirits. I remember one day I had a really bad day. I think I'd been involved in 4 or 5 different mistakes. I've been punched, spat, whatever. And then you whipped out your guitar at the end of the day and just started playing some tunes on the guitar. And that sort of lifted everyone's spirits, because it's like, how important do you feel, and why do you feel like you need to take that role on?
I needed it as well because of the way I work. I feed off other people, and I know when people are struggling. And that's one of my skill bases. I just know when people are struggling, and I know when it's been a tough day. Music for me is a big therapy. Has been for years. I didn't realise how important it was until COVID hit. And we was living in our old house in Chatham. And the father-in-law had been passed away for a few months or so. And I was driving. This is after I'd left where we were working. But I always knew that music was a good way of getting through to people. And then I was playing Temptations, and there was a song called "I Can't Get Next to You," and I realised that that's COVID. I can't get next to you, but there is some things that we can do. So then I started doing that music online at Facebook, and I did it 2 years solid. And I've got friends all over the world, like we all have. We know people that have immigrated. I have people in Canada, Spain, family in Australia, family in Zimbabwe. I had family, friends in America, all just coming on every now and again for an hour or 20 minutes, down low, and it just brought people together. And music's a leveler. And if you start playing a song and you're having a sing song and stuff, you automatically want to engage. And then as soon as you engage, everything that's right at the top of your front of your brain, all the crap you've just dealt with, just sort of just goes. So it's, if you've got the ability to do it, yeah, it's just, I've done it. I've always, in certain places, I've always had a guitar hand, especially in mainstream schools. There's always a music department. I'd go over there, pick the guitar up, have one in the staff room, always don't worry about a thing, every little thing's going to be all right. Do a couple of verses of that, everyone's singing and smiling. It only lasts for about half hour, and everyone come home and they go back to their crappy lives and marking books. But for that short space of time, it's that valve or the pressure cooker. You just let it go a little bit, let off a bit of steam, think about something else, and then it's just one of those. It's just that you've got to have a limit. Someone will tell a joke or they'll do an impression of a head teacher, and it'll make everyone laugh, and it'll just that ice break, that little diffuse. So yeah, that's it. Just if it's not needed in the moment, then I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't just pick up the guitar every 20 seconds and go, right, here we are. We're gonna do we're gonna do the drugs don't work by the Verve, because but you play something,
Yeah, no, 100%. And like in that environment, laughter, I think, got us through. So it's just something that always stuck into my head. And I'm just wondering why you did that, because you did have to. No one that said to you, like, Jim, you just walked out and started.
That's probably just the way my mind goes, because I probably needed it as well. So for me doing that because I'm concentrating on playing and singing and doing other bits, then for me it's a way of, when I said about when I have to go for a drive and my mental health's not great, it's that immersive thing, because it changes your thought patterns and you're only concentrating on that, and it just clears it. So it's one or two ways it works. One, someone joins in and then they forget about it. Or two, someone's not joining in and thinking, this bloke's crap, why is he singing? They've still forgotten about it. So it works either way, doesn't it?
You're a darts fan, but
oh yes, I love it.
Skill-wise, what's more harder, getting a 180 in darts, a 147 in snooker, or a hole in one in golf?
Right, so the hole in one in golf has got a lot of variables about it. Okay, so the one thing that the hole in one in golf makes it very, very difficult is because they can all hit the ball at the pin. Everyone can do that. They can pick a club that can hit 108 yards, 234 yards. But then when you cater for wind, heat, temperature, and stuff like that, then you talk about the way the grass is cut, the way the slopes are on the green. There's a lot of variables that can negatively impact, which is why it doesn't happen all that often. So in terms of skill, anyone can hit that golf ball towards a golf pin, but the variables make that difficult. When you talk about darts, you still have a certain amount of variables, because I play darts. I mean, I hit a 180 on Saturday with a set of darts that I have that my mates bought me. But I don't have the same throw every single throw. So there's too much movement in my action. When you're looking at when you're looking at the professional side of things, the skill factor is so much more. But the repetition, the body memory, it is the variation becomes where the dart lands and then blocks maybe on the 180s, like where the dart might block, so you might get a glance off and stuff like that. But that makes the 9-darter difficult because you don't have a big space. You're talking about a space that's only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. So you're like body memory and doing that makes it difficult. And that's only 9 throws. 147, 15 reds, 15 blacks, and then 6 colours on top of that. So you've got to be perfect for, help me out here, 30, 15 reds, 15 blacks, that's 30. So you've got to be perfect on 36 shots, okay? And then the only issue you've got then is that, you know, the pockets are quite narrow, but then at professional level, you've got more of a chance because, once again, like professional darts players, body memory, positioning and stuff like that, and just natural skill, that makes it easier. When you go to the amateur side of things, the only one that you can possibly do as an amateur that you've got more chance of doing as a not fully competent player is that me and you go on a golf course, spunk a ball, and get took lucky and get a hole in one. So that's why you could discount the hole in one as the hardest. With the 147, you need to be exceedingly good and have that average where you can make 36 perfect shots. So I think, and then it depends on the break as well, because where the balls lie and stuff like that. So the variance of 147 makes that more harder than an iron darter, simply because in my the ball don't change. The only variant, yeah, the only variant is where your dart lands and it might block. But then you've got so many different ways of hitting a 501 9-darter. So if your treble 20s blocked, you can go down to the 19s or to the 18s or the 17s or the bullseye. So because I think there's something like over 20 different ways of hitting a 9-darter. So you're not tied to one part of the ball. As long as you're accurate and your body memory is good, you should be able to hit a 9-darter. Although it's still difficult, but there is loads more than that. Luke Littler's done 5 this year already. You know, I mean, Stevie Beaton, who's just retiring, has just done a 9-darter in the German Open. And it was 3. It was 3 just in the Players Championship 7. I think it was Steve Beaton. I think Aspinall did one, and there was another fellow that did it. So 3 9-darters. How many actual 147s are done? You know, because of the variant. You could get, you know, when the ball gets a kick, that could ruin a whole 9-darter. So I'm saying, based on the amount of shots and where the balls lie, 147's got to be harder. There's a long way around, but I think I've explained it enough.
What's it about darts that you enjoy watching as a spectator? Because just a man throwing some arrows out.
I watch it because I love playing it. I mean, I played for a dart team at Tilbury Leisure Centre Club. And I played for 2 years when we moved down there. And it's the fact that sometimes, like last night, I played bowls now as well because I'm an old git. But when we finish bowls, we're going for a dart. Now, you know, I'll hit a 140, then I'll hit a 7. Makes no sense. I'll hit a 180, and then I'll hit a 3. Or I couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo. And it's a great leveler. But then you'll have, I've done some massive outshots. I've done a 153, 145. I've done some real, and I can just go donk, 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 and I go, how have I done that? and then I'll follow it up with single one, 5, and I think, how can I be that accurate there, and then be so rubbish? I just love that you can beat anyone on your day. They can have a bad day, and then you can beat anyone, or at least give them a good run for their money. I got mates that my mate Lawrence plays for County, and I managed to win 4 legs off him about 10 years ago, and I was delighted. He won about 15, but but I managed to win 4 legs. But it's the skill, it's the repetition, it's the skill.
Do you think people relate with the players because it's like a working man's game? So obviously back in the day, yeah. Peter, Andy Fordham. I remember being in a pub in New Cross with Andy Fordham's son when he was playing Phil Taylor, and everyone just stopped. I think he come on about 8:30. We was all in there from 6, and the whole pub just stopped because they were invested in both players.
Yeah.
I always linked it to. It looked like it's hard to say. Like football, there's a lot of skill. Everyone wants to be a footballer, but you know you're not going to reach that skill level. But you look at a darts player and think that could be me.
Yeah, because I think because there's not a body type. There is a level of fitness because a lot of the game's changed. But you could, I mean, Andy the Pie Man, you know, he was a big lump. Cliff Lazarenko, there's loads of them, got big lumps. Even Scotty Mitchell, former BDO champion, big lump farmer, but he can stand, keep his arms straight, throw straight, and play at a good standard. You need to be averaging 95 plus every game just to get through the first round. And there are players that I've seen over the last 5-6 years that have averaged 105 and lost a match. And that's roughly throwing an average of 11 darts per leg. 501, 11 darts per leg, and you're still losing.
I know you're a boxing fan as well. With everything moving over to Saudi, do you think it's good for the sport?
I think money. I don't even think Saudi like boxing. I honestly don't even think they like boxing. You know, a lot has been said about sports washing. Like the football league. I mean, the average crowd attendance when Henderson was over there, it was something like 250 people going to a home game, but they're paying people, you know, £200,000 a week, play for El Hatif or whatever it is, and there's 200 people watching. You know, it's about restoring and trying to get a better. It's positive propaganda for Saudi. And hoping that people won't think about equal rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, etc., and then we'll ignore that because they can put on a boxing tournament. No, I'm not happy. I'd rather our boys and girls were fighting at the O2, Copper Box, Wembley, Bournemouth Stadium, like you know, than go over there. It sorts them out for money. So, like, you know, the Usyk fight will be very interesting with Fury. I think that all Tyson's got to do is just stand up and just flick his jab out for 12 rounds without having to do much, and keep him at arm's length. I think Usyk will provide a bit more of a test for him. But I think if Tyson fights the way he did against, say, when he fought Klitschko with that level of intensity, he doesn't have to worry about the punch power of music so much. So, like when he fought Wilder, he was jabbing in the back. He was always waiting for that overhand. Yeah, waiting for it. And that's why I fear for Joshua before Wilder. It's not enough head movement with Josh. It'd have to be really aggressive.
Even the Wilder we saw against Parker, do you think that Wilder would still cause Joshua problems?
Yeah, because I think you know, for all the excuses that Wilder has, I still think he has got. Do you remember Gary Mason? It was a heavyweight at the same time as Bruno and Lennox. And Gary Mason was the latter day Joe Joyce. Massive puncher, but he was a plodder like Joe Joyce. Not a lot of head movement, but if he hits you, it was a slow punch like Joe's are, but it was a slow punch, but it was a lot behind it. So it was thudding, it was concussive, it was brutal. But he never moved, like it was no head movement. So against Lennox Lewis, who danced like Baryshnikov, like Fred Astaire compared to Gary, and he just literally just danced and jabbed, and he couldn't get anywhere near him. And that's why I'm worried about Joe Joyce. I mean, he can do that capoeira dance when the fight's finished and do that backflip and spin. Why do that in the ring? Move your bloody head. Do you know what I mean? It's just, but his punches are too methodical. It's like, it's just, but, but you know as well as I do, it doesn't really sort of step in and move and come through. It just goes dunk, dunk, dunk. And Shide Zhang, he just moved and punched him. If and the only reason why he beat Dubois was because Dubois he didn't jump at him, and he didn't have enough punch power, Dubois, to deal with Joyce. Whereas Zhang, because of his weight and the way you watch Zhang punch, he turns and rotates, comes straight, he goes from his boots all the way through. And he should have beaten, I think he should have won against Parker, to be quite honest, Zhang, but there you go.
And what do you think about the Conor Benn situation? Because obviously we had Dillian's situation as well. Dillian was handled a lot quicker than Conor. Like, why do you feel?
I've got to do some research, and I don't know why this is just popped into my head, but I know it's right. Clemenethine, that's what was in his system, I think. And he's turned around and said it's because of the 40 eggs that he was eating a day. Just, I don't know. I don't know if
when it happened, I spoke to the CEO of Bieber. Now, Bieber is the British Ice Boxing Authority, which has sort of been blacklisted by the British Boxing Board of Control. But their CEO said, with these tests, like with UCAD or whatever, one of them will have a level where anything below it won't class as a reading. So if it's like 5 milligrams, 0.5 milligrams, anything below that, it's going to come back as a negative because it's not going to pick it up. Where the other one doesn't have that limit. So you can have 0.00000.1 of a reading and it will come back as a failed test.
Yeah.
So where it was two different, and don't get me wrong, I jumped on the Conor Benn wagon when it first came out. I was like, yeah, he's a cheat, shouldn't be allowed in the sport. When I heard that, I can't remember which way round it is, so I don't want to give the wrong information, but one has a limit that anything below that doesn't get picked up, so it's a negative test no matter what. And the other one doesn't have that, so the slightest trace will come back as a failed test. But with that, we're now 2 years on down the line, and he's still not allowed to box in this country. Why do you think they're holding him back compared to others? Like, as I said, you had Dillian White, probably served
I think it might be political. I don't know whether or not. I mean, I would have to, for me to make a proper judgment, I'd have to invest some time and research into what the levels were, what was present, what wasn't present, where it sits, like you said, on one and not the other. Whether or not eating 40 eggs a day to get that protein in.
That's a crazy excuse, and I think that was his PR team, which they ill-advised him what to say, so it made him look like a laughing stock.
Yeah, well, they got a doctor to turn around and say that his body doesn't break down that. They did a DNA test, and they couldn't break down. His body doesn't physically break down that particular protein. That's why it was omnipresent in his system, and that was a contributing factor. I do personally think that there's a better way to get protein in you than drinking 40 raw eggs. I mean, it's not Rocky Bal. It's not 1976 and Rocky Balboa, is it? Where he's eating like raw eggs and drinking it like a smoothie. Because if I tried to do that, I'd be thrown up for a month.
I can't even touch one raw egg. And
No.
what about YouTuber boxing? What's your opinions on that?
Good luck to him. Right, well, you look at Baldley. He was a white collar boxer, weren't he? And now he's developed in it, and that was a smack. What a fight that was against Fraser Clark. What a fight! You know, as well as I do. The lighter the fighter, the less the purse. The heavier the fighter gets, the more money they get. So why would the super bantam champion, who's earning 20,000 a year for a title fight, earn less than I don't know, Jake Paul, who's going to fight Tyson, who I hope clubbers him, absolutely clubbers him. You know, if he's going to take my biggest issue is if you're going to take this fight game seriously, if you want to be taken seriously, go into the professional ranks and do what every other sorry son of a whatever does, and start going down to the York Hall, go into the York Hall and fight an area division champion. And then win that area division. I know he's American, but fight the area division champion, like Eastern Counties champion. Then fight the Southern Counties champion. Then go for the British title. And then like they're used to them. You become English champion, then British champion, then Commonwealth, then European. And then once you got those four, you're entitled to go for a world title. Being a British champion would automatically almost guarantee you a world title. Not now.
Money talks more than belts.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, there was only 4 fights out there at the moment, and there's a lot of boxers out there that I think. Who's the Sanchez, the heavyweight? He's got some skill. He's got a punch. He's being held back. I think the Bridgerweight thing's interesting, to be quite honest, as well. I was surprised that Babic got beaten. Because I thought he was a monster, but he was. I now sort of think he's more like Butterbean, and only me and you will probably appreciate that. Babic is Butterbean, but a lot better shape Butterbean than Butterbean was in. But yeah, but no, I think the state of boxing is there's still some criminal scoring, and I still think it's corrupt, even though Don King's not involved anymore, allegedly, just in case the lawyers are listening. But I'd like to see some common sense. I think there's too many belts for a start. Anyone can be a champion. I think there's too much politics to stop different people unifying belts. But in general, at least 2 fights a year are proper, real good. Proper, real good. I'd like to see Anthony Yard. I'd like to see him win a world title. I think his box office in terms of his persona and what he brings. I think he's hit his ceiling. So he's got to be like, when Bruno finally won the world title. I think he finally found someone that he could beat. When you're fighting the likes of Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson, although he had Tyson in the first round with that left hook, and he should have jumped on him, and then just went for 2 rounds just to funnel him. And I think he just got shocked and surprised that he'd hurt him that badly. But yeah, I think the halcyon days, especially the middleweights. I couldn't even tell who the middleweight champions are now. I know it's Canelo Alvarez, but yeah, but when I was growing up, we had Hearns, Hagler, Duran. We had those, and then you had Collins, Ben, Eubank. Who's that? Tell you who the middleweight champion was there. I can tell you who heavyweight is, but I couldn't tell you. I think the light heavyweight's good with Bivol and stuff like that. That light heavyweight and cruiserweight, that's good. That's a good area. I think the Bridgerweight needs a bit of work. And I think the cruisers will use the Bridgerweight as a stepping stone to get more experience to cope with the heavyweight division and then move up. So they'll do that graduated approach as opposed to going from cruiser straight into I think Usyk might even come down to Bridgerweight, become 3-time world champion. If he beats, if he fights, and if he loses Fury, which he should do in paper, both fights, I think he'll go down to Bridgerweight and become 3-time world champion.
That's a good shout. And it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the heavyweights say he is a lightweight heavyweight. He's it'd be a top tier in the Bridgerweight.
He's no Evander Holyfield. He hasn't got that power. And Holyfield was a brute. It punched for 12 rounds. And it would take a lot of, we've seen it. It took a load of punishment. But when you had a neck the size of Bournemouth like he did, I mean, he was, from about the chest up, the man was, it was like the juggernaut. It was just huge. But he was skillful and he punched and he had a chin. He was durable. He had a real good engine. He had a heart of a lion and a warrior. So he's up there. He's definitely up there.
To the end of this conversation, and it has been fascinating. So I've got one last question, and this question I ask every guest: if you could be remembered for one word and one word only, what would it be and why?
One word, huzzah. That'll be it. Because from the rugby club days, I used to shout out huzzah a lot. Because that was it. But everyone who knows me, I call everyone a fabulous human being. Every day I call everyone a fabulous human being. So if there was 3 words, it'd be that. But if it was 1 word, it'd be huzzah.
One last thing, sorry. You do, as you said, go on lives sometimes on Facebook to give everyone a disco. Where can they find you to get that?
Oh, they'd have to just find me on Facebook, James Robert Francis, and then friend request me. But don't bombard me. If you want to listen to 70s, 80s, 90s, disco, soul, ska, reggae, a little bit of 80s synth pop, I do request. Facebook hate me. They shut me down a lot, but I just pop back up. I'm like a cold sore. You can't get rid of me.